Digital media to me is especially any kind of media that's electronic. MP3s, online newspapers, Hulu, YouTube, social media.
Supplements to magazines, online, social networking sites.
Pictures, movies. I think anything that can be reproduced electronically and particularly over the internet and can be manipulated on a computer is digital media.
The social media networking sites that are extremely popular right now, I think they help perpetuate connections between online users, and I think they allow for companies to interact with their patrons and their clientele, and I think it helps with business and economics.
When I think of digital media, I think of it as something that's electronically mediated. So I mean, like, the obvious thing might be computers, but I think more and more we can think about like cell phones or smartphones or other things as being digitally mediated. But probably the key thing for me about digital media is the multimodality aspect. So this coming together of modes in ways that's more explicit, I think, than other particular situations.
I define digital media in multiple ways. So I think first of sort of the obvious definition of technologies, but I also think about how people use the technologies. So it's materials on the one hand, but also different ways that people interact with those materials in social contexts.
Every day, all day long. I look up things for class and entertainment, so I'd say it's like pretty integrated into everything that I do.
I use digital media all the time. Probably a better question is, when don't I use it? It's really difficult to pry myself away from my machine because so much of my life is involved in it.
I use digital media all the time, and I think if I think of the two ways I define digital media as the materials and as the ways people use them, I think that both of those things have changed drastically throughout my lifetime. In years past, writing has been largely restricted to print, which is something that everybody could access, or many people could access through the computer. And now it's sort of expanding because some of these technologies and the ways people use them are becoming more available. So I think it's just going to become more and more prevalent as more and more people have access to these kinds of ways of making things and putting their message out there in the world.
I think society is pretty much committed to a digital society already. A lot of paperless banking, Netflix online, subscribing. I can subscribe to my Vogue magazine online. Mm-hmm. So I think just a lot of things have switched to digital media already.
I mean, I think it's going to have a particular staying power. Career-wise, people are going to be required to dip into all these different expertise areas, and having that digital edge is going to become necessary. Mm-hmm. Especially for folks who are in the humanities, students who are majoring in things like English or history who aren't getting that broader exposure to things digital, makes me a bit concerned, because I think that more and more people are going to be expected to have these various digital literacies, like with blogging platforms, for example, or maintaining websites.
I think it would be massively important because it's new and it's very much unlike anything we've ever dealt with before, because it's so transient and it's so mutable. I think we need to learn how we can use this for educational purposes, for legal purposes, for creative purposes, and I think that studying the ways that it's used and the ways that it functions best are really, really important.
I think something like a digital media studies major is very important to ask some of those questions about not only the ways media are consumed, but the ways they can be created.
And I think that the good thing about a digital media studies major is because it's so interdisciplinary, it allows a person to really find a sub-focus within that as well.
Bring some of those conversations together and create some bridges between disciplines and between departments where they're asking similar questions maybe in a different way that can bring light to an issue or to a question from a different perspective. So that would be one benefit of such a major that doesn't exist at Michigan currently, that I think is important.
I think that incorporating a major of this type would definitely show the the progression of studies at Michigan. I think it would definitely show that Michigan accepts and acknowledges the new forms of media in society.